Hello, Johnny. Thank you so much for being here again, a second time. Can you please again introduce yourself and your brand briefly?
Yes, my name is Johnny Hickey. I work for the brand Perfect White Tee. It's a women's apparel brand. We sell T-shirts, and the company is located in Los Angeles. Business was started by my wife and her partner in 2020, and I've been handling marketing at the company since 2021.
Who exactly do you serve? Who is your market?
Our customer is women between 18 and 65 in the United States. Primarily, we sell the United States.
Can you tell me a little about the challenges that you were facing before we started working together?
So 2020, when they first launched the brand, we didn't really know much about marketing. We had to learn as we went. And I think we started doing email marketing in 2021. And we did it ourselves in the beginning, and then we hired an agency. And at times we've either hired an agency or done it internally, and it's gone back and forth. And we had a lot of success over the years with the business, growing the business, and we pretty much would just look to every year double or triple business. One year we did like 600% growth. So for us, if we're not growing 200%, 100% year over year, it's that's going to be a problem. We really want to grow fast. So I think in 2023, I had hired an agency, and my task to them was basically just double business this year. And they were like, okay, cool. And they did it. They did a great job. They were able to double the business. We literally went from X to 2 times X in a short period of time. And they did do a good job. But I had started to notice in my e-com circles that they had a lot of clients. And everybody I talked to all of a sudden who knew me, because I'm very vocal about who I use, everybody I talked to would say, hey, I'm using, the same agency you're using. And I had this conversation with a lot of people. And I knew the agency when they started, they only had like 20 clients or so. But I knew it at one point. I was aware of the fact that they were approaching 50, and I had referred them quite a few clients myself. I probably referred them 10 or 15 clients at one point. I know in a single week once I referred them 3 clients. So they were starting to get busy. When they got busy, obviously the deliveries might suffer a tiny bit, which we understood. And we ran into an issue that was persistent and difficult. There had been a technological, snafu with a loyalty program that was on our website, which a lot of brands suffered from. And as a result, bots got into our account. We suffered just a 50% reduction in email revenue in a single month. And our list was getting bombed with bots. And it caused me to look around. And I had gotten, I know I had done an audit with you, I think, right?
Yeah. In
Yeah.
February.
And I had passed the audit off to my guys and said, hey, guys, why don't you execute on some of this stuff? And some of it they agreed with, and some of it they were like, we don't agree with it. And which was cool. That happens. There are always a million ways to skin a cat. So I can see two marketers disagreeing, and then the year afterwards, if each one of them is running a company, both companies still be double or triple revenues. Like, it's not like there's only one way to double or triple revenues. There's multiple ways. That wasn't my problem. And because they were reasonable about it, they were like, well, we don't agree with this point. And I understood where they were coming from. They're willing to try some things. But the main issue is that they were not able to solve this bot problem in a timely fashion. And I had been talking about it for about 5 or 6 weeks. I had noticed our metrics were going off a cliff, and I had gone off a cliff and was just continuing to get worse. And I really felt like I was getting gaslighted a little bit. And, like, hey, don't worry about it, man. Look at the last year. We're up double. We got it taken care of. We'll figure this out, kind of stuff. And for me, it really wasn't working. Like, I really needed a solution to the problem I was seeing, not pointing at other success that we have had. And even though I love those guys and they're great guys and everything, I still see them. The choice was purely business. Like, I'll shake hands, I'll eat dinner with you, but I needed my double year over year, and that wasn't happening with this bot problem that we were having.
So did you have any hesitations before choosing us as the partner?
I guess in that situation, there isn't a lot like to hold you back. When your feet are at the fire and somebody comes in and they're going to solve the problem. I just knew in that moment that you were dedicated to fixing the issue, and you were fully aware of it and involved. Nobody had to tell you what was going on. You had figured it out on your own, and you were taking care of it. And it was something that you were just dedicated to solving and going to the next step. And also, we had some discussions about your philosophy, the hourglass theory that you have. And I would say, I'm a generalist in marketing, and I'm like a brute force type of marketer. I'm just, I'm like, figure it out. We'll do, I try new things, but I'm not a T-shaped marketer, like really deep into email marketing. Like I'll give you, for instance, we have an agency and we do email marketing for some of our clients, and we did email marketing for Perfect White Tea when it first started out. But we're not going to do email marketing for a brand that's our size because it's not our specialty. So in my philosophy on these things is you find somebody who's really good at it and you just pay them to do it. There's no doubt that I can go into somebody's Klaviyo account and see what they're doing wrong and fix it when they're doing 150, 250, 350, maybe even 500 a month. But at a certain point, I want somebody far more dedicated to email than myself in that account, really pulling the levers and doing that. There's a bunch of things that you did. I'm sure you're going to ask on a later question, but there are a bunch of things that you did that amazed me in the account that I'm like, wow, this is just unbelievable.
And you said doubling. The thing is, doubling when you're at 50K a month is almost immediate, tripling, quadrupling. But once you get into, I think Perfect White is probably going to be 9 figures this year, if it's not already, or very close to it between wholesale
Now,
and
not this year, but there certainly is a period of time where we're gonna be there. It might be we might hit that kind of revenues in the next 12-month period. Like we might be able to be on track for it in 12 months, but definitely not in the next 12 months. At
and,
least I doubt it. We'll see though. You never know.
and that's, you mean D2C or like both wholesale?
Yeah, I mean wholesale and DTC. It's possible. I mean, it's always possible. I wouldn't like to say it just because once I say
No.
something, I'm like, that's it, I'm going to hit it. So unless I'm committed to it myself, and it's more than just me. There's a lot of other
Yeah.
people have to say, hey, this is our goal. It's not, I don't set the goals for the company. I set my goals for DTC, revenue goals for DTC. I set my goals for efficiency, for new customers, all of those different things. But the overall company goal is the three partners, and I'm not one of them.
The challenges of doubling once you hit some of the numbers where you're hitting right now, the skill set, the actual technicalities become very different to when you're at 100, 200, even 500 in terms of the setup, in terms of the overall approach to it. So can you talk a little bit about your experience? I think we've been working for a year and 3, 4 months maybe now.
Yeah.
So can you talk through what it has been so far?
Yeah, I think it depends a lot upon the TAM and also what you're doing. Like you said, it's very easy to double revenues when you're doing 50 grand a month. You can pull one lever. Like I'll give you, for instance, 2021, we did a bunch of work on the flows, and Perfect White Tea. We hadn't really done too much email marketing at that point. We did a good amount of work on the flows, and we were doing, 55, 70 grand a month at that time. Within 90 days, we were seeing Klaviyo attributed email in platform over $100,000. And you might say, some people might say, well, you can't trust Klaviyo attributed revenue, but the brand itself was doing over 200,000 at that point.
Mm.
Directionally, I would say that that's pretty accurate. I don't know if it's exactly accurate, but the fact that we went from 70 to 230, and when I looked at when we were doing 70 month, I looked at email revenues and it was like 5 grand, 2 grand, 6 grand, month over month. It was like going up between like 2 to 5, 7, maybe. We never hit 10, I don't think. So then we did a 10 or a $12,000 a month as soon as we redid the flows. And I was like, wow, that's great. We got a lot of revenue coming in this month. But then within like 90 days after that first 30-day period, we had 100 in attributed revenue, but we were over 200 in revenue a month at that point, triple the revenues in 120 days. So, yeah, it's easier to do it at those low levels because there's probably something that you're not doing. And, to be honest, we might hire somebody who comes in and knows e-com so much better than me. And they might say, dude, why weren't you doing this? And they pull some lever and all of a sudden we're doing 5, 10 million a month. It's possible, but it definitely gets harder at this point. I certainly am searching with an open mind for ways to double revenue while we're in the 8 figures, and, I'm looking at 8-figure months this year. Not every month, but we will have 8-figure months this year. So it's possible to pull those, but I mean, trust me, I'm searching far and wide. I'm talking to everybody I possibly can. And I do know people who have done it recently. I was at a conference recently. You were at the conference. Guy got up on the stage and said, oh, hey, I was doing 2 to 5 million a year. We're going to do 35 million this month. Now, and I know people who have inside, sight to his account. So I know that it's not a BS number. It's reality. He's got a big footprint. He's in the newspaper. Like those are real numbers, and he was able to attain it. So I'm not going to say it's impossible. I do mean to ask that guy, how the hell did you do that?
They had
Can
a
you just write a few things down for me here?
I think it's also time in the market. I'm not sure how long he's been doing it, but also the time in the market is a component, and also the Facebook group, I believe, for him in particular.
I don't want to take anything away from his success, but it
Yeah.
took us less time to hit 80 million in revenues than it did for him to. But now he's like I was talking about how long they've been in business, and it's like I think 12 or 13 years or something like that. And we were only in business for a few years, and we were doing like 20 million a year.
Mhm.
So we were growing fast, but now he's just he's been in business 12 years, but now it's like he figured out, like, he attached his company to Elon Musk's rocket, because it's just so
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm sure that there are ways that we could at this point double revenue, and trust me, I'm searching, man. I talk to people all the time looking for that next way. You must be careful though, because you can break the logistics, the customer service, the ops side of things if you grow too fast at this size.
We recently started with the reply to buy SMS. So that's something that is new as an initiative that wasn't there before, and it's kind of like a new technology as well. So I've seen it from working together now for almost a year and a half, and talking a lot about ecom as well. That you implement really quickly anything that you see that has some excitement, and sometimes it's not the right thing, and sometimes it is. So I think that's one thing that we've been seeing being adopted like really quickly and through the time. I mean, we've set up a bunch of additional flows. We did tests in the current flows. We split some of the existing flows. We did more segmentation. We did the deliverability work. So there's a lot of moving parts that have happened, and I can't summarize them in 5 minutes. But if you were to say maybe one or two main things that stood out to you from the process, from the team, from the approach, just in this period of time, what would you summarize in terms of like our work together that has been the most impactful thing?
I like being able to call you guys at midnight on a Saturday your time and just get right on the phone and do what we need to do. That's really something I just love.
That was me and you last Black Friday at
I'm
3
just
a.m.
kidding.
local
I
time.
know it's true, actually. Yeah. I like that when we came to you, you have a system that you're gonna roll out onto us. You're not trying to figure it out as you go. You had the hourglass theory, and you started out with the theory that you could increase our LTV substantially during a 12-month period. And then you put together some tests and you communicated that to us. And it's a good amount of labor that you're going through, obviously. So it's a process. What are we, 12 months into that process? Because I don't think you started it right away.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're
I
about
think
12 months into that process. Customer lifetime value do you have the number for customer lifetime value in front of you?
no, really, it's not close to double, but it's about maybe 60 or 70% up compared to what it was. I need
Yeah.
to pull that data a little bit later, but I think it's around that number because I know I don't know if I want to be sharing like that number here, but it is up by
Yeah, and it was a pretty static number for us. Like, our customer lifetime value was pretty static for a few years. It was a really good number. I remember being on the phone with agencies, and they would say, what's your LTV? And I would tell them, and they're like, "Oh, well, we're talking about 12-month period." I'm like, "Yeah, that's it." And they're like, "Whoa, that's wild." So when you can move that to 70, I don't know a lot of brands that have a CLTV of what we have in a 12-month period. There are not a lot of brands out there. Every brand has their edge. Our edge is that we're able to take customers and turn them into like raving brand fans and cause them to just, they just trying to buy everything that we have, and it sells out all the time. And it's a really great thing to have. And we've always had it somewhat, but you definitely enhanced that
yeah. And
experience that customers are having.
when you put together the number of customers that are coming every single month, and you increase the spend a lot from last year. When you multiply that by the number of people with that higher LTV, that's a bit of the compounding effect that we've been seeing. And I think just last month was our strongest month ever again, and I think it was stronger than last year's Black Friday, if I'm not mistaken, or close to it. Maybe.
I would say last month was certainly more profitable than Black Friday last year, no doubt. Spent less money and almost as much money, much less discount, no sale, basically.
No sale.
So, actually, no, we did have a sale, but it's not
For
as
one
big
day,
a
yeah,
sale.
1 or 2
Yeah, a
days.
couple of days. So things are great. I mean, we can't complain. Things are really going well.
And how has that impacted the team, you, everyone involved in Perfect? Just all of this work. What would you say if you were?
It doesn't really change anything. It's there's still a tremendous amount of pressure to do the same exact thing next year. We were talking about it last night. My wife and I try not to talk about business stuff after the day is over. We actually don't. We try not to talk about business stuff at all. Like, probably speak to her 10 minutes a week about business stuff, maybe 5. We try not to because it can, it can cause trouble. What we
Yeah.
try to do is we try to stay out of each other's area and have intermediaries. Like I'll assign stuff to her person who works for her. She'll email my person and say, hey, make sure he takes care of this. And then if we have like some sort of like high level meeting that we have to be on, we do that. But we spend very little time talking about this. But we literally last night while I was washing dishes, she was like, so what do you want to do next year in revenues? And I was like, what? What do you mean? I don't have anything in front of me. She's like, can you just come up with a number? And I was like, no, like that's like, I mean, I'll be honest, it's not really science for me. It's more like I know people are like project a number and they have all these formulas and stuff like that. I do have a formula that I use somewhat. It's not that it's basically I just take email subscribers and times it by the value of each email subscriber for the last 12 months. And then I just say how many subscribers we have now, how many subscribers we have last year, come up with a number. And then I have like this little thing in my spreadsheets that takes an average of the last like 6 months and times it by 3. Those are my two, but that's the short term one. The long term one, like when I'm saying right now what we're going to do next year, it's really not a projection. It's more like whatever number you say I'm going to hit, I'm going to make sure I hit that number. I'm not figuring out what we can do. I am just deciding that I'm going to do this number and that's what I'm going to do. That's my way of doing it. I think that's why I've always been able to do it, is that I'm not guessing. I'm just demanding that we do it.
So what would you say to anyone considering just working with us? Uh, if they are if they're still deciding, if they're evaluating us to other partners, or if they just like never heard of us, like what would you say to someone who just sees Trivela for the first time?
I had gotten an email audit of the account recently by another big agency, which is something I periodically do. I actually do it less often than I should. And they went into the account and I was talking about doing a detailed audit so that I could know what's going on. And I wanted them to make a punch list of things that they would change. And the idea was that we would pay for this audit, gave them access, and heard back a short period of time later saying, hey, dude, don't worry about the audit. Looks pretty good in there. We don't really have much to say. A couple of things you could check out. They just listed like 2 or 3 things, but they're like, that account is being run very, very well. And there's really no point in auditing it. So that was pretty cool. I would say if you're thinking about dealing with Trayan, if you're contemplating it, just try to look at how things have gone in the past. Are they going the way that you would want them to go? Are you extremely happy with your email? And if you're not, yeah, you just want to hit the subscribe now button and get on the list, because it's a thorough process. And once you're through it, you'll know that your account is being well taken care of.
Thank you for that. I think also Klaviyo said similar feedback to you when they looked into the account, right?
So we are an email agency. We don't chase down big clients for email, but we do email work. And it's not our main service offering, but I call up clients every once in a while and say, hey, you want to look at your account? Because I know that they're struggling. We're not going to run any $2 million, $3 million, $4 million brand a month. Not going to do mid 8-figure brands for email, but a smaller brand, we'll totally take them on. We'll do the work. I have a brand right now that I'm working on. So because we are a Klaviyo, because we have Klaviyo partnership, we have that, status. They went to our website and they were on our website looking, and Klaviyo said, oh, we realize one of your clients needs a lot of work in their account. So they reached out to me and I was like, cool. Like, what does Perfectwhitetee need? Tell me. Like, I'm all over it. And the guy was like, oh, that's not the account. He's like, it's this other account over here and this other account there. I was like, oh, man, what about Perfectwhitetee? And he goes, nah, they were actually looking at that account, man. There's nothing to do there. He's like, that's a really well run account. I was actually going to mention it to you at some point that this account is really well run and great job. But what's going on with these other 2 accounts over here? And I was like, oh, I don't do their email, to be honest. I'll pitch them, but I don't actually cover their email right now. They're a client for another marketing service. And he was like, oh, okay, well, let's get them on the phone. And in a later conversation, he had said, we might reach out to you about using Perfectwhitetee as a case study for what Klaviyo can do for a customer.
That's crazy.
I was like, well, you could send it. We'll take a look. And obviously at that point, I'm going to bring you into the conversation. So I told him, yeah, we're all about it. We'd love to hear. I haven't heard back from him though yet.
That's fine. And the fun part is that I think that might be why Perfectwhitetee is actually not in my partner account on the Klaviyo agency portal. And I've been trying to get them to actually agree and say like, hey, we've been managing.
No, dude, I've been managing that thing for 4 years.
And they don't, because they provide like this extra bit of support and they look into the account, they kind of come with suggestions. I've been saying like, well, Perfect is one of the accounts that I pay quite a bit of attention to as well. They've been saying, ah, no, it's not in your portal, something else. So
Yeah, I got to talk to them about that actually. I'll give you I'll give you the okay for that.
it's good.
We have a couple of Klaviyo accounts that we do overseas, so that's probably why we have that.
Yeah, maybe. Well, appreciate everything. I appreciate all the kind words. Obviously, the partnership, I can confirm that. No, we don't run any ads, which I think is not necessarily something to brag about, but everything that we've been getting has been word of mouth through people that see our work. And thankfully, from you posting on Twitter, a lot of like goodwill has been built. So it's I'm happy that you are happy, but at the same time, I'm really happy about the work that we've been able to put together and the results, because
Yeah.
obviously we wouldn't be here without the results. Thank you, Joy.